Level 1. Thrall. That means slave. You just got sold for the price of one milk cow. Yeah, milk cow. And in 30 years, every king in the north will kneel to you. Right now, you're 22, chained to a post in the Hedeby slave market, and a buyer is checking your teeth like you're a horse. He frowns. Too skinny. Dead by winter. The slaver doesn't argue. He just smacks you across the face. Hard enough to split your lip and drop most men. You don't drop. He grins at the buyer. See? Hitting him's free. The cow costs extra, and it kicks back. A year ago, you had a farm. The most beautiful wife in the valley. A little boy who loved the wooden horse you carved him. Then the longships came up the fjord. They took the strong men and the silver and burned the rest. And beauty doesn't slow a torch. Your wife and your son were ash before you could reach them. You ran instead of dying with them. You'll carry that the rest of your life. The man chained next to you is Marcus, Irish. Grabbed off a beach as a kid, sold so many times he's forgotten his own language. You take the same beatings, share the same crust, cover for each other when the overseer's drunk. Right now he's the only friend you've got. At night the two of you make a stupid plan. Get free, buy a strip of land, farm it side by side. It's the only thing keeping either of you going. A Jarl named Hrolf buys you for that milk cow price and hauls you north to his steading, where you spend your days mucking his cattle buyer, hauling stone for his new haul, and cutting peat out of a half-frozen bog. Remember that name, Hrolf. One night, raiders hit the steading stores. Everybody freezes. You don't. You wrap your chain around one of their throats and jam the gate shut till the house wakes and runs them off. You don't win. You just hold. An old one-eyed man watched the whole thing. Not how you fought. The fact that nobody got past you. A slave with a chain guarding the men who would have sold him in the morning. That's the kind of man who gets an oar instead of a grave. Level 2. Bondi. It takes the smith 4 strikes to get the collar off your neck. The first 3 ring and bounce, the 4th bites through, and for the first time in a year your throat is just a throat. A thrall is property. A bondi is a free man. And among Norsemen, only a free man may carry an axe, speak at the thing, or take an oar on a raiding ship. The collar comes off, and the road to becoming a Viking cracks open an inch. First you have to survive being poor, which up here is its own kind of war. You don't feel free. You feel cold where the weight used to be. The one-eyed man who watched that night is named Sigurd, Hrolf's man. He buys your freedom out of Hrolf's own hand for a price you'll never forget. You're a bondi now, a freedman. Free means landless. Free means you owe Sigurd everything. Freedom, it turns out, is a tax bill. Hrolf gives you 9 acres of bog nobody else would farm, a lame ox, and 1 winter to make barley stand or starve. A year ago you were a farmer with good land and a family. Now you're a farmer again. Worse land, no family, a debt where a wife used to be. At the thing, where free men settle things with words, you stand at the very back. You speak once, before a landed man has finished, and 3 generations of farmers talk over you until you sit down. Nobody has to strike you, so you learn the first real skill of power. You learn to wait. Then a neighbor named Asgeir moves his boundary stones onto your bog in the dark. A freedman who kills a landed man doesn't get justice. He gets hunted. So you don't reach for an axe. You find the spring where his cattle drink, and you fence it off. A week later the stones move back, and neither of you says why. A raiding crew comes through before the thaw, recruiting oars for a voyage west. The steersman takes one look at your farmer's hands and almost waves you off, until Sigurd's name and the story of the gate you held reach him, and he puts an oar in your grip instead. Sigurd sees you off with the only blessing he knows. Bring back enough silver to stop owing me, or don't come back. That night you bury the broken collar under your new hearthstone. The only thing here that's truly yours. It isn't much, but every throne begins with one man owning one thing. Marcus is already gone, sold south while you were learning to be free. Where those 2 roads meet again is a story neither of you would believe tonight. Level 3. Drengar. Nobody warns a farmer that the open sea moves like a living thing under him. A bondi scratches a living from his own dirt. A Drengar, a young warrior, takes it from another man's off the deck of a longship. This is the rung where you stop being a freed farmer and start becoming the thing that burned your village. A Viking. And some cold part of you means to be better at it than the men who took everything. Day 1 on the oar bench, you empty your guts over the side while men born to this laugh and call you bog, for the mud you came from. You answer to it. A name you answer to is a name you can change later. You're rowing west to the monasteries of Northumbria, where the silver wears crosses. First raid, they hand you a cheap iron axe and put you in the second rank. So the front rank's killers don't die first. Then the shield wall breaks and the work comes to you anyway. A hired guard swings at your head and you read it before he throws it. The same twitch you read on an ox about to bolt, on the slaver about to swing. You step inside it. He doesn't. You kill 2 men before you've decided to kill anyone. After that, nobody calls you Bog. In a slave pen in Dublin, you find Marcus again. Harder now, scarred. He eyes the silver ring you've earned and says, "Down here you eat or you get eaten. I made my choice." So you spend your whole cut buying him out of the pen and put him on the oar beside you. You think you're hauling a drowning man out of the sea. You'll spend years wishing the sea had kept him. The fjord nearly ends all of it. The steersman misreads the water and rows toward a dead end, where a local levy gathers on the cliffs to pin you against the rocks. You read the tide instead, find the one beach they aren't watching, and say it out loud before the landed men finish arguing. Nobody talks over you this time. They beach where you point. They live. Your cut that summer, hacked into silver, clears Sigurd's debt with some left over. The steersman doesn't know it, but he just put an oar in the hands of the man every ship in the north will one day answer to. A lordsman who watched you steer that fight offers you a place in his Jarl's herd, a sworn household guard. The steersman warns you low. A drenger's silver is his own. A herdman's belongs to his lord. You'd be trading your freedom for a roof. You take the roof. You tell yourself it's only for a while. Marcus takes a place in a rival lord's herd the same week. The 2 ropes split again. Level 4. Herdman. You swear the oath on your knees, and the lord you swear it to is Jarl Half, the same Half who once owned you. A Drengor fights for his own share of the plunder. A herdman is a sworn warrior of a lord's household who stands in the shield wall for his lord's name. And among Vikings a name outlives the man, while silver is gone by spring. The oath tastes like a collar, except this time you buckle it on yourself. And the strange thing is, it feels like climbing. It is. He doesn't recognize you. A man doesn't study the faces of his thralls any more than his cattle. He sees a warrior. You see the man who once set your price at 1 milk cow. Hrolf's hall at Bora is a court, not a battlefield the other herdmen are warriors' sons born to it. You fight like a man who learned in the dark by getting hit, because that's what you are. The weapons master watches you win ugly and calls your style lowborn. Ugly keeps winning, and ugly that keeps winning stops being lowborn. It becomes the new way. At a feast where rival herds drink together, Marcus is there. The favored killer of a neighboring Jarl now, the beaten boy buried under a warm laugh. He toasts you in front of the hall. To the man who pulled me off the block, the room loves him for it. Something cold turns over in your chest you can't name yet. Later, quiet, he asks how you read a fight before it starts. You tell him a little. It's the first thing you ever give him that you can't take back. Then a guest gets drunk and kills a man under Hrolf's roof. Blood spilled under a Jarl's beams is his shame to answer. The young herdman won a feud, and a feud means war. And war means half this herd in the ground by spring. So you find the third road. You arrange the killer's exile, and you have the weregild, the blood price. Count it out loud in the hall so every man hears honor being paid. No feud. No war. Hrolf says nothing to you. 2 weeks later, your seat at the bench moves up 3 places. That's how a Jarl thanks a man he won't put his name to. Then the real war comes, and the King Stellari, the marshal who moves whole armies, dies in the shield wall. The born captains want the post by blood. Hrolf puts your name forward instead. He reads a battlefield like he's already lost it once, the Jarl says, and decided never again. So they hand command of 300 spears to a freedman, men who outrank you by birth, every one. And not one has answered the only question that matters. What do freeborn warriors do the day they learn the man telling them where to die used to be somebody's property? Level 5. Stellari. 300 spears, and every one of them knows your hand started rope-scarred, not sword-scarred. A herdman guards one man's back, a Stellari, a war marshal. Decides where 300 Vikings stand in the shield wall and which of them won't walk home. Command isn't strength, it's permission, and these men haven't given it. You give your first order at the muster, set the line at the river ford, and the born captains nod and quietly set it where their fathers always did. High ground that leaves the ford wide open. The enemy comes through the ford exactly as you said. You win. You drag your reserve across and plug the gap. And it cost 31 men who would be breathing tonight if your order had been obeyed. You cut a notch into your axe haft for each one, where no council will read them. The council reads the victory. They never read the haft. Being right too late, you learn, is just grief with good aim. Marcus is across the water now. Stellari for the rival Jarl. When the two armies face off, he fights you to a dead standstill, using your own fight treating turned back against you. Half a beat ahead because he learned it from your own mouth at a feast. Under the truce flag he smiles. You taught me this part. It's the first time you're afraid of him instead of for him. Then, between campaigns, the gods hand you something, so they'll have something to take. Her name is Ingrid, freeborn. She marries a freedman and doesn't care who whispers. A son comes, then a daughter. You build a hole on the same 9 acres of bog you once farmed alone. Dig the broken collar out from under the hearthstone and hang it on the wall where you'll see it every morning. For one winter, you stop climbing. You're a man with cold feet and a warm bed and 2 children who fall asleep on your chest. And for the first time since the longships came up the fjord, you have something to lose again. It is the happiest you will ever be, which is exactly how you'll know, later, what was taken. The king dies that spring without an heir strong enough to hold what he held. The realm cracks like river ice. Every Jarl starts counting spears. And before the old king's widow flees north, she presses his heavy silver armoring into your palm. The man who puts this realm back together won't be the best born. He'll be the one no one can chain. She looks at the mark on your throat. They tell me you wore iron there once. Good. Then you know how to take it off other men. Across the water, Marcus hears the king is dead and starts counting ships. Level 6. Hersier. You stand in your own hall and ask men to swear to you. Not to a Jarl. Not to a king. To you. A freedman whose slave collar still hangs on the wall behind him. You watch them see it. A Stellari leads another man's army. A Hersier is a Viking war chief who raises his own ships, his own sworn crews, and pays for every spear and every widow out of his own hand. You don't take the collar down. You point at it. I know what the bottom costs, you tell them. That's why I won't spend you cheap. 40 men swear. One day it will be 30,000, and they'll call you High King over all of them. But tonight it's 40, and 40 is everything. Then you learn the war chief's secret nobody warns you about. Your own band means you pay for everything. Ships, iron, the silver to the widows. And the silver only flows while you keep raiding. The day you stop, to go home to hold your daughter, the band drifts to a chief who won't. Success isn't a place you arrive. It's a current. You can steer it. You cannot drop anchor in it. Marcus, a war chief himself now, answers that same truth a different way. He takes a contested village by burning it with the people still inside. Not in the fighting. On purpose. Terror is cheaper than a siege, and somewhere between the slave pens and now, Marcus stopped keeping his conscience in the room. Men who used to toast the boy off the block go quiet when he passes now. He's decided the only safe place is the top. And no rope reaches that high. 2 larger Jarls plan to crush you between them. You can't be either in the field, so you stop fighting men. You write 2 letters, and let each Jarl find one saying the other means to betray him first. They muster against each other while you take the harbor town they both wanted without lifting an axe. A province, one with ink. Soon the Jarls come to swear to the strongest man left, and one of them is Hrolf. Gray and failing now, kneeling to the thrall he once sold for a milk cow. He still doesn't know your face. You let him keep his hall. Then Sigurd sends his last word before he dies, older than any man you'd known. The only father this story ever gave you. You stopped fighting men, the message reads. You started fighting the air between them. That's a Jarl's trick. And then, don't forget it was a Thrall's first. He's gone before you can answer him. Men call you Jarl now. To hold the harbor and the 40 villages leaning your way, you'll have to take the title. That night, alone, you say the 2 words out loud for the first time. Konungur, High King. Across the water, the same season, Marcus takes a Jarl's seat of his own. Level 7. Jarl. The first morning you sit the Jarl's high seat, a steward brings you a line of new thralls to assign. Chained at the neck, on one rope. For one breath, you're back at the post in Hedeby, 22 and waiting to be sold. A Hersier owns a band of men. A Jarl, a Viking Earl, owns a land. A hall, a border, 40 villages, 1,000 souls. You come down and strike the collars off all of them yourself. They think you've gone soft. It's the first thing you've ever done purely because it was right, and not because it worked. Ruling isn't raiding. It's grain stores, blood feuds, marriages. 100 small mercies that each make one enemy. To seal a border peace that keeps 300 farmers out of a war, you marry off a girl of your own household to a man you wouldn't trust with a dog. The math is clean. The girl doesn't cry. And that's worse because she understands the math too. Then Marcus sues for peace. He proposes a reconciliation feast. Old slaves, he says, shouldn't die as enemies. Ingrid begs you not to go. But honor means you come unarmed, or you lose every man you have. So you go. And Marcus is gracious. He kneels and gives your children 2 little kings carved from walrus ivory. Schneefetaffel pieces. The game where one side hunts a lone king across the board. Teach them the game, he says, smiling. The board only has room for 1 king. But the pieces never know that, do they? You leave that feast uneasy. The piece shaped like a ring is already a noose. That winter, the famine comes. You outthink it. You filled grain stores through the harbor you won with ink, and feed your 40 villages while rival lands starve. You're winning the whole realm without drawing a blade, which is the exact moment Marcus stops playing for the realm and starts playing for you. You're at the thing, 3 days sail away, claiming the dead king's crown. When it happens, Marcus burns your hall. Not for the province, not for the silver, but to break the one man left alive who could beat him. Ingrid is inside. Both children are inside. The little ivory king's char to nothing in the ash. You come home to a black ruin and a smell you will never get out of your sleep. It was the life you two swore you'd build together at Hedeby. A field, a roof, a family. You got to live it. He didn't. So he burned it. The color survives the fire. Blackened, warped, but whole. You take it down. For the first time since the slave market, you lock it back around your own neck. There's no one left to explain it to. Marcus has turned the North into a story with 2 men left in it. He doesn't know which one grief breaks, and which it sharpens into something that doesn't stop. Level 8. Konungur. You don't grieve where men can see it. You take the crown. Konungur, king. A Jarl answers to a king. A Konungur is that king he answers to no one, which you learn isn't freedom but exposure. But a king raises an army a war chief can't, and you need a war to reach one throat. They crown you in front of the Jarls. Under your cloak, against your skin, you wear the iron collar from the fire. And on your arm, the dead king's silver ring. The woman was right. No one could chain you. The realm thinks it just got a king. It got a weapon with a kingdom for a handle. A king can't stand in the front rank. The only place you ever felt clean. Now you move pieces on a map and sign other men's deaths. You starve Marcus's lands the way he once starved that village, going cold in the exact shape he went cold. The boy who once took a beating beside him at Hedeby and didn't even hate him for it. You notice it happening. You do it anyway. He's the only other slave who climbed this high. The one man the kings might name over you. Kill him, and the High King's chair has 1 man in front of it. You don't beat Marcus in one battle. You take his harbors. You buy his herseers with grain silver. One by one you remove every room he can stand in, until the man who burned your family has nowhere left to stand. Sigurd's air-between-men trick, aimed at one throat. Cornered, he sends a last message. No threat. Just a list. The pens at Hedeby. The beatings you took standing next to him. The ore bench you put him on. The silver you split in Dublin. The strick of green land you both swore you'd farm when you were free. And then the line. You made me. A king who carves his own murderer out of a frightened slave should at least have the spine to say so. It lands because it isn't entirely wrong. You meet on the mirror field where you once fought to a draw as marshals. He has nothing left but his heart and his pride, and an archer could end it from the ridge. You wave the archer down. You take off your cloak and let every man see the iron slave collar around the neck of their king. You walk in on foot. Second rank stepping up into the first, the way a Drengar does. So the man who killed your wife and children dies looking at the slave he could never stop being afraid of. You kill him with your hands, with the chain. The same trick that started everything behind a steading gate 30 years ago. His last look isn't hate, it's recognition. His realm is yours now. Every Jarl between the seas is sworn to you or buried. Before they put Marcus in the ground, you take the collar off your own neck and lock it around his. The slave mark ends on the monster. 30 years, and it finally belongs to the right man. Then the envoys come, every lesser king, asking you to be named over them all. You've reached the top. The top is the quietest room you have ever stood in. Level 9. High King. They crown you High King with an iron torque, a neck ring. It closes around the same circle of throat where a slave collar sat when you were 22 and worth the price of 1 milk cow. The same iron, The farmer who watched his family burn now answers to no man between the seas. A Konunga rules his own people. A high king rules the kings themselves, and rules from the loneliest chair anyone ever carved. No one is also the exact number of people left alive who remember the sound of Ingrid's laugh. Being high king means you kept only the deciding. You judge, you settle feuds, you divide grain. You're good at it, you learned every rung by getting hit on it. There's no one above you left to impress. There's no one beside you left to miss them with. Then they bring a thrall before you, barely older than you were at Hedeby, caught raiding your stores, holding a doorway with nothing but a chain and refusal. He won't drop it, won't meet your eye. You watch his shoulders, and you see the reed in them. The twitch, the half-beat, the thing you taught yourself in the dark against oxen and slavers. You recognize it the way you'd know your own voice from a stranger's mouth. You come down off the seat and strike the collar off his neck yourself. Then you give him an oar, and the only blessing you know. The one a one-eyed man gave you a lifetime ago. Bring back enough silver to stop owing me, or don't come back. You're doing for him exactly what was done for you. And you know exactly where the road ends. A hole. A wife. 2 children asleep on his chest. A friend he should never have pulled out of the sea. A fire he comes home to 3 days too late. You give him the oar anyway. Because the only thing worse than the climb is the bottom. And those are still the only 2 doors the world has ever offered a slave. Evening on the terrace of the High King's Hall. Down in the yard, the boy is already practicing alone in the dark. Looping the rope, reading shoulders that aren't there yet. The torque sits cold against your throat. The collar that used to sit there is in the ground now, locked around the neck of the man who burned your family. There is nothing left in this room to teach. The boy with the steady hands is the hook. The boy with the steady hands is the trap. And the chain is already in his fist. If this one stayed with you, like and drop a comment with where you're watching from. Subscribe for more.